are stories that live in the shadows, whispers from beyond, encounters we can't explain. This is Beyond the Veil, where the unknown is never far away. Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us once again, Beyond the Veil. I'm Brett Rogers, and I am of course joined by right less than honourable Lee Wise.
Indeed. Good evening.
And tonight we are bringing you two more incredible listener stories. I don't think you've heard, I think you've heard one of them.
I'm not sure I've heard any of them.
You might not have heard either of them then. Well, that'd be good then.
A lovely surprise.
Indeed, a terrifying one at that. So, so we've got a couple of listener stories tonight, so we're going to be really excited to share these with you. Really quite extraordinary as well. So, I think we're just going to get straight into it, shall we?
Let's crack on.
Well, there's no messing around, so are you ready?
I'm ready.
There are moments that don't announce themselves. No warning, no build-up, no creeping sense that something is about to happen. They arrive quietly, in places you know, in routines you trust, in the middle of completely ordinary situations. A step backwards, into someone who isn't there. A glance at something familiar that suddenly isn't. And in that moment, everything changes. Tonight's stories don't come from abandoned buildings or forgotten places. They happen in the real world, in working environments, on everyday journeys, in moments so normal that what follows feels impossible. A care home, heavy with loss, where something unseen stood close enough to be felt, and a quiet drive home where a simple radio display may have carried a message meant for no one else. These are not stories of shadows lurking in the distance. These are moments where something comes closer, so close you could reach out and touch what lurks beyond the veil. Story 1. The Donning Room. This happened during COVID. Lauren was working as a night carer in a residential care home, starting her usual 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. shift. At the time, she was pregnant with her third child, cycling to work in the evenings while the world felt quiet. Streets were empty, windows were dark, the air itself seemed heavier. Inside the care home, things were even heavier still. During that period, the home had lost many residents to COVID. Rooms that had once been filled with conversation and routine had become silent. Staff carried on as professionally as they could, but there was an unspoken weight in the building, grief layered upon exhaustion. Because of the virus, strict PPE procedures were in place. There were 2 designated rooms, one called the Donning Room, where staff would wash their hands and put on gloves, aprons and masks before entering a resident's room.
Or don them, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah, I was putting them on. Donning them.
Well, thanks for clarifying. Just completely ruined You just completely ruined my momentum. You wanker. Thanks for that. Right. Let's get back onto it. Bloody hell. And another called the Doffing Room, where they would remove and dispose of PPE afterwards. Were they doffing them by any chance?
Indeed.
On this particular night, Lauren began her shift as normal. She entered the Donning Room alone to prepare for personal care. The routine was automatic by then. Wash hands thoroughly at the sink, dry them, glove up, mask on, apron tied. As she finished washing her hands, she turned off the tap and stepped backwards from the sink. And as she stepped back, she stepped back straight into somebody. It wasn't a brush against fabric. It wasn't a light touch. It was the clear, unmistakable sensation of bumping into another person standing directly behind her. Without thinking, she reacted instinctively, her polite nature kicking in. "Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there." She turned around. There was no one there. The room was empty. Lauren froze. The air suddenly felt ice cold. Not just cool, but sharply cold. The kind that makes your skin prickle. She called out to her colleague, the other carer she was working with that night, assuming she must have slipped in behind her without her noticing. But there was no reply. Lauren realised she had left the resident's room before her colleague had even finished inside. There was no way she could have been standing behind her in the donning room. Feeling unsettled, Lauren stepped out into the corridor to find her. She looked down the hallway and saw her colleague emerging calmly from a resident's room further along. There had been no one near the donning room at all. Lauren began explaining what had just happened, how she had clearly bumped into someone in the bathroom when no one was there. As she spoke, still trying to make sense of it, when suddenly the donning room door behind them, which had been wide open, slammed shut. Not drifted, not slowly moved, slammed. The sound echoed down the corridor, and once again, Lauren felt that same intense, ice-cold sensation wrap around her. This time, there was no hesitation. She ran down the corridor frightened, heading straight for the senior carer on duty to explain what had just taken place. There was no logical explanation. No drafts, no one else nearby. The building was quiet. The rest of the shift continued, because it had to. Residents still needed care, and the night still had hours left in it. But nothing else happened. No more doors, no more cold, no more unseen presences. Still, the question has never left her. What did she bump into? In a building that had seen so much loss, in a time when fear and grief already hung heavy in the air, was it simply exhaustion playing tricks on a pregnant night worker? Or was it something unseen, standing silently behind her in that small clinical room? Lauren doesn't know. She only knows that she felt it, and that when she turned around, she was alone. Scary story, man.
Yeah.
It's a simple story in the sense of like it happens very quickly. You know, she just steps back into somebody. But the fact that no one's there, and then the door slamming as well, it's like it's a very small contained event. But I think the fact that it is just this one thing that just happens, like as if it's not meant to happen.
Yeah, the context as well, and the cold temperature, which is again a common theme with these sorts of things.
Yeah.
I mean, it was no walk in the park working in a hospital during COVID.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it was like in a care home. You know, very vulnerable people. There would have been, as the story said, a lot of death, sadly.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, you know, care homes are elderly folks, so they're closer to death, just mathematically. So at the best of times, somewhere you could believe would be haunted, if you believe anywhere is. But I think especially during COVID, and it was sudden, and wasn't even a lot of time for grief. So the people grieving those people would be, if they had some family still, but the other residents would have felt it really keenly. So I think that energy would have been different.
Well, when they say that paranormal activity is fueled by negative energy, you can only imagine that these residents were probably at an all-time low, of like feeling isolated and scared, and
exactly, no visitors.
That's it. And then when you also couple that with the fact that, you know, they'll also be seeing people that have come to class as friends passing away around them, there'll be fear and like, well, what if I'm next, and things like that. So, and sadly, some of these people are in residential care like that because they've got mental health issues, neurological issues, you know. And
So it wasn't all elderly folk, was it?
I don't think so. I think it's not just. I think it was not just elderly people.
Right.
I think it was those who actually needed advanced care as well.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, people always say that
Either way, the people in a vulnerable situation during a pandemic.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, people often cite residential elderly people homes with being quite haunted places anyway. You know, you only have to look at YouTube in terms of the amount of ghost investigations that happen in abandoned care homes and things like that. And they always say that it's likely a hive for paranormal activity because of the amount of negative energy that happens in there. So it's not difficult to believe, if you believe in that sort of thing anyhow, that something like this would happen. But I think it's also bizarre that this is the only thing that Lauren ever experienced, and it was just this one event. But it was so, you know, it's not just like, oh well, it could be a trick of the mind or anything. It was like a physical thing. You know, she stepped back into something, and she was so convinced that she'd hit something, because she had hit something, that she was apologising to this person before she even turned around to see who was there.
And your eyes do play tricks on you sometimes in all sorts of ways. So I don't know. This gives a bit more weight than if she'd seen something.
Yeah, that's it. Like if she'd like seen something in the corner of her eye and gone, oh, sorry, I didn't see you there, you know, because something had made her jump because she'd seen something. This is very different to that. I don't
physical.
we've all had it where we thought we've seen something and it's made us jump and it turns out it's nothing. But I don't think I've ever thought I've bumped into somebody.
No, definitely not. I think those physical things, like, remember when we were on the ghost hunt and you felt like somebody had pulled your coat? Yeah. So that's a physical feeling, isn't it? It's hard to imagine that.
And the only reason
it's hard for that to be a trick of your mind.
Yeah.
Whereas it's, particularly if you're in a dark area or whatever. No, Lauren wasn't necessarily, but we were on the ghost hunt. You're in a dark area. If you saw something in that split second, you could easily pass that off.
Yeah.
But the physical feeling of having your coat pulled, stepping back, and walking into someone, that's a bit different.
Of course it is. Yeah, 100%. And the only reason I don't talk about that more, about having my coat pulled, is because I can't say without any certainty that it wasn't Ron.
It wasn't. He was very keen to say it wasn't him.
He most certainly was.
Actually bringing suspicion upon him.
Yeah. And if Ron's listening, I'm not saying you're a charlatan. I'm really not. But it's just.
How dare you?
I would never. Ron was a saint. It was just more the fact that, like, how can I ever be sure?
Yeah.
How can I ever be sure?
Yeah.
Because
it may well not have been Ron. It might have been someone else.
Yeah. It's just that I turned round and he was a few feet behind me. How can I not then say, well, I can never unequivocally say that it wasn't him? I just can't do that. But you see, Lauren doesn't have that because she was in the room alone and she stepped back into something and there was no one there.
Yeah.
So, again, I had that with the coat pulling thing, and it was like, oh, yeah, that was weird. He says he didn't do it. I've got to take his word for him on that one.
Yeah.
And if I am going to take his word on it for it, then it's like, okay, yeah, well, that was a really weird thing that happened to me because it was a physical thing, as you say. But Lauren, that is weird because she stepped back into something and nothing was there. How can you mistake that? I have never, ever hit something, brushed into something that was not physically there.
No, I haven't. That's yeah, good story.
And then next, of course, is the door. You know, the fact that like she went back out into the corridor to call for a friend, a fellow carer, and then the door slams as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah. Really good story.
yeah, and you know, I suppose in a place where you'd expect there to be loads of stories like that, it's the only one she's got. You know, because I said to her, I said, do you have anything else that ever happened like that? And she was like, well, it's just the things that are a little bit creepy, but I could never say that they were paranormal.
I think that's it. Might be the impression those of us who don't and haven't worked in such a place presume.
Mm.
It's just it's almost like a logical. If anywhere is going to be haunted, it's going to be somewhere where a lot of people have died. And if it's one for the elderly, a home for the elderly, then you're going to get more than the average amount of death in there.
And films haven't helped because they've almost cliched the whole thing of old people's homes with people with advanced senior neurological issues where they behave a little bit erratic and things like that. That's a creepy thing, so therefore we'll bang it in a horror movie. So we've also kind of been pre-programmed to think that these places would be absolutely rife for paranormal activity.
True.
But Lauren was just like, well, no, there was some weird stuff, but like nothing that I would consider to be paranormal or unexplainable.
Yeah.
But this one was where she was like, I really can't explain it.
It's similar to what happens with cemeteries, I suppose, because of films.
Yeah.
You consider a cemetery a bit creepy on a night, but I don't recall ever really hearing very much paranormal stuff around cemeteries.
No. Considering if anywhere's, we're talking about death, I mean, okay, they didn't die there, but if we talk about ghosts liking to hang around places where they've been laid to rest or whatever, well, fuck it, you should be kicking off in graveyards and cemeteries all the time, shouldn't it? But although you really
like, if you do have a choice in the matter, would you hang around if you died and you're a ghost? Would you hang around, just stick around the place you died, or would you go to places that actually just meant something to you?
Yeah, I'd go
your childhood home, or
I'd go to Disney World.
Yeah, I'd go to Beach Tree, I think.
Beach Tree of all the places.
Oh, it's a comfort to me in the years.
Well, yeah.
If I end up in Disneyland, I'll consider myself in hell.
Yeah, well, I suppose it would be for you, you miserable old goat. Anywho, so yeah, great story, Lauren. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Really, really good story that. And I mean, if anything does come to mind, I'm sure you'll have remembered by now. These things stick with you, don't they? But if you remember anything else that was remotely odd, it'd be good just to have a little add-on just to share on social media or something. But otherwise, yeah, fantastic story. Thank you so much. So, our next story, the message through the radio. This next story comes from a listener who shared an experience that even years later still leaves them searching for an explanation. It isn't dramatic in the way some stories are. There are no footsteps in the dark, no shadows at the end of the bed, but sometimes it's the quiet moments, the ones that slip unnoticed, that stay with us the longest. At the time, this listener was travelling regularly for work, making familiar journeys between Hull and Scarborough, often taking the Driffield route. Like many of us do on long routine drives, he would usually have the car radio tuned to BBC Radio 2, something familiar playing in the background to break up the miles. On this particular day, he completed his work at Scarborough Sewage Works and began the drive back home to Hull. Nothing felt unusual. It was an ordinary journey on roads he knew well. Partway through the drive, he noticed the radio had fallen silent. No music, no voices, just dead air. At first, he didn't think much of it. Reception along higher roads and ground can be unreliable, and it wouldn't have been the first time Radio 2 would cut out along the stretch of road. Expecting it to sort itself out, he just glanced down briefly at the radio display. But that's when he noticed something strange. The station name had changed, and instead of Radio 2, the display now read R Italia. Radio Italia, presumably. There was still no sound coming through the speakers. He found it odd, but not alarming. He assumed the radio had simply drifted stations due to poor signal and figured it had snapped back once reception improved. And he left it alone and continued the drive home. It wasn't until later that evening, after he'd returned and gone out again to pick up his daughter, that the moment took on a very different weight. As they sat in the car, his daughter glanced at the radio display, and she froze. She looked genuinely shocked. Concerned, he asked her what was wrong. She stared at the display again before quietly saying that it didn't say Radio Italia to her. She said it looked like a name, not a station, a person. The name Rita. And Rita was his mother. She'd passed away just a couple of weeks earlier, on 11th of November, and the day now was the 24th of November. At that moment, the letters on the display, R Italia, suddenly took on a different meaning. Without context, without knowing it was an Italian radio station, the name appeared unmistakable, especially in the silence, especially in the aftermath of loss. His daughter even took a photo of the radio display. Proof, not for anyone else, but for themselves, because without it, he admits he might never have believed it if it had happened. Neither of them spoke much after that. The drive continued, but the atmosphere in the car had changed. What had once seemed like a minor technical glitch now felt heavy, charged with something neither of them could quite put into words. Later, trying to make sense of it, he changed the channel. Over the following days, he attempted to tune it back into Radio Italia again. Deliberately this time. He searched through stations, returned to the radio and tried again, but he could never find it. No Italian station, no signal, nothing. It was as if the station had never been there at all. And to this day, it remains unexplained. Was it just a coincidence? A technical anomaly? Or something else entirely? A brief moment where grief, memory, and technology intersected in a way that felt deeply personal and impossible to recreate. And he said to himself, it's not something he would ever believed if it hadn't have happened to him. Bit of a weird one, that one.
It is a weird one.
Because it's like that thing of, okay, well, it could be coincidence, but then sometimes the coincidence is just a little bit too coincidental.
My first question is there a Radio Italia?
Well, I had a look for that. And of course there is a Radio Italia. Just bear with me. You see, when you Google R Italia, the third result down is Radio Italia. So I did space R space Italia, and Radio Italia is a radio station. But why his car
Is
tuned
that
into
one we
it?
can tune into easily?
Well, we would be able to online because it would do it over the internet, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So that would be fine for us, but even with a digital radio, I don't think that would work. I think actually my colleague at work has a digital radio in his workshop. I could maybe try and play around with his.
Just be interesting.
Just to see if you can pick it up. But when I've worked in places with digital radios before, like when I worked in, not my last job, the one before that, they had a digital radio. And when I've scanned through stations, I don't think I've ever picked up a quote-unquote foreign station before.
No.
And he's right, sometimes when you drive...
Well, if he went back, person went back and tried to find this radio station using that same radio, that's a bit more
Also
compelling
weird.
than if we just try on a digital radio. It'd still be interesting, but
Yeah.
I think that is a bit odd.
I think the fact that he tried to recreate it and he was unable to makes it very strange. Again, he even said himself, it could just be coincidence, but the fact that that's what his daughter saw immediately was the name Rita. You know, that would have been her grandma.
Yeah.
And immediately she saw that, but there's no music or anything. It's like, well, if it's managed to find the signal, why wasn't it playing any music?
Yeah.
You know, so it cut out. So if we're willing to believe, and again, I don't know how these sorts of things work on a really technical level, but if he's driven through a point where the signal's got a little choppy and he loses signal to BBC Radio 2, a national radio station, but he picks up Radio Italia.
Yeah.
How is that signal going to be coming through stronger than Radio 2?
Yeah.
And also, not only has it come through, but it's not produced any sound.
Yeah, that is odd. Because if you tuned into it, if you tuned into our Italia and Italian music was playing,
La, 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 la.
Very nice.
Thank you.
It would point to that you've just tuned into a radio station that happens to have the name of somebody who's recently passed away in it. You know, if I died and you tuned into Radio Leeds,
yeah,
you know, you might say, "Oh, look, Leeds' name's there." But of course, it's just complete coincidence. But you would expect to hear, Radio Leeds playing, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So, yes, it could be coincidence, but sometimes coincidences are weird in themselves, but not necessarily paranormal.
Well, that's why, by definition, that's what a coincidence is.
Yeah, and coincidence. It really reminds me of my story. You know the story. I'm not going to use the real names, but the doctor I knew who died.
Yes.
So, story is, I was on call, had a horrendous on call, was in all night, and on the radiography screen, it does sometimes come up with random letters that I've no idea what they mean. And
you're a doctor, are you?
I was
That's helpful.
Looking at that screen. Well, I'm certainly not a radiographer. I was looking at that screen and it said RIP. And so I looked at the radiographer. I was like, "Did you just see that?" Didn't know if I was just tired. She was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Is that a normal sequence of letters to come up?" And she said, "No, I don't think so."
Good
you know, she wasn't particularly freaked out. I wasn't particularly freaked out. Didn't mean a whole lot. Then, let's assume this doctor was called John Michael Smith. So initials JMS. We use that a lot in the hospital, so you would do that. That's how you would know him. And this doctor was somebody I was really quite close to, really liked, cared about, and he'd passed away slightly before that on call. And this didn't become sort of clear in my head until the next bit of the story. But I'd been clearing out his drawer that he had, and during COVID, he'd bought himself some smart scrubs. And
smart scrubs? Could you go out in them?
Yeah.
For a meal?
I'm pretty sure he quite liked me, so I thought he wouldn't mind if I had those. So I took them, because they'd never been worn. They were in the cellophane wrapper, and I was wearing them for this on call. Like I say, it didn't factor into my mind at all during this stuff. So
wearing a dead man's clothes.
A dead man's clothes. So I saw RIP on the screen. Finished that. Fortunately, the next day I was doing a shift at a different hospital. Went over there in the morning on my motorbike, finished my shift and needed to put some petrol in, so I took a different route home because I went via the petrol station. And part of the route took me through a slightly rough area. And on the side of an end terraced house, in huge letters, it said RIP JMS. I was like, that's really strange. Really, really strange, to the point I stopped my bike. I was like, that's odd. And then I realised, shit, I was wearing those scrub. So I returned them. And, nothing else has happened in response to that. And when I thought about it, he was the sort of guy who would have said, cheeky bastard, get them off.
Yeah.
And it felt quite nice.
Yeah.
It felt almost like a bit of a joke from him.
From beyond.
Yeah.
Beyond the veil, if you will.
And again, it might be just an entire coincidence. Weirdly, when I went back past there, purposely to look at it again, it had been painted over.
No way.
So again, just complete coincidence, absolutely, maybe.
But sometimes, like we said, sometimes the coincidences just feel a little more than coincidental.
Yeah.
It almost like that the patterns just fit differently. Like the pieces just come together in a very specific way at a very specific time. And again, I know that by definition that's what a coincidence is, but I don't know, when it's personal it just feels different, doesn't it?
It does.
And I think like with this, it's like, well, it was a matter of week to 2 weeks since the fact of his mother passing, and then that happens, and he's done that travel to and from all those times.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he can't get a national UK radio station, but picks up Our Italia even though it's still not playing music.
Yeah.
If he was going to lose signal in that way, why didn't it just happen to BBC Radio 2? Why didn't he get another more stable station that was closer, like a local station close to Scarborough or wherever he was? I don't know. Like and then the name of his mother was Rita. It's just It's just weird.
It is
weird.
It is odd.
I mean, I'll pull up the picture for you now. I've still got the photo.
I mean, from as well, like from another angle, maybe these things aren't coincidences, but that's just what we always put them down to.
Yep.
Maybe we don't even see them.
Yeah.
Don't even notice them.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think
maybe it's more frequent than we care to realise.
I think in many ways we're led to believe that they are coincidence because we've not got any other kind of explanation for them. So we're made to believe that they're coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't seem to find it actually. I thought I could have sworn I had it. I can't remember if he either posted it directly to the Facebook page or if he sent me it, but I can't find it now. But yeah, so it was like it was the dashboard with the letters lit up in red for the radio, and where you normally get the text telling you what the radio station is, it said Our Italia, and it had this really small space between R and Italia. So at first glance, for them, well, certainly for his daughter, she read Rita, and I think, yeah, I'll have to try and get the image again from the person who sent that story in, and I'll post it into our page and group so people can see it. But yeah, the coincidences are maybe a little striking, aren't they? Yeah, they're like whoa, that's weird.
They are, yeah.
It's another good story though, and thank you very much for sharing it and sending it to us. We're
absolutely
another great set of stories there, and if anyone else out there has got some stories, send them in, because I'd love to get some more. And also at the minute, if you're not aware, we're running a competition at the moment on our Facebook page and group, and it's also on Instagram. You enter it across all 3 platforms. It's running until the end of May, so the 31st of May 2026 is the end of the competition. Basically, all you need to do is just comment on the post and like it. The comment needs to be what you'd like us to cover in a future episode. someone has already mentioned in there that they'd like to see us cover time slips, which would be a really good one.
Definitely.
But yeah, anything like that, vampires, werewolves, specifically poltergeists, or anything like that. If it's paranormal, we'll cover it extensively in a episode, and you'll obviously get the credit for that. But you'll also get a chance to win a personalised signed copy of Lady in the Bay Window 2 by the author, William Seagrave, or Liam. And you'll also win 4 tickets for you and 3 of your bezies or your family to go on a paranormal tour with Mike Coble.
Excellent.
So, yeah, nice little prize there. So, yeah, get entering. Let us know what you'd like us to cover, and you can get those goodies to win. So, yeah. But other than that, make sure you get yourself over onto those pages and give us a thumbs up on our post. Give it a follow. Really, really does help the podcast. If you're following us on YouTube, like the videos. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you give them a rating on there as well. All that stuff really does just help the podcast just get noticed that bit more. So yeah, if you can leave a review or give it a thumbs up or whatever, it really, really, really be appreciated. It really does mean a lot to us to know that you guys are out there listening and you're enjoying the videos. So if you can just do that little bit for us, that'd be absolutely fantastic. So is there anything else we should go? Oh, we've got something exciting coming up, haven't we? We are going to be doing an episode coming up covering Fort Paul.
Yes, looking forward to that one.
Yeah. We've got an episode coming up soon. Might be June when that one goes out, or June or July. Either way, keep an eye out or an ear out. And we're going to be going to Fort Paul with Mike Coble again. He's going to be joining us, and we are going to be do it all on site. We're going to talking about the history of Fort Paul, the hauntings, the paranormal sightings, recorded sightings, and might even see if we can get some activity while we're there as well.
Definitely. I've never actually been. Have you?
Only when I went to see about actually seeing if we could do something there.
Yeah, I've never been, but I've heard sort of that people found it creepy for a long time, an awfully long time. I've heard various people say that it's quite an eerie place.
It's got a feel to it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I just had that feel because I know it has a reported history of being haunted, and it's also very old. But yeah, it certainly has like that feel, like something don't feel right. But I can only imagine at night it feels worse.
Excellent.
A lot worse. So it's going to be good, and it's one of the places where Mike will also agree that indeed it is haunted. You know, it has a history. He's experienced stuff there. I'm pretty sure he was saying that he has been in there and investigated on his own, hasn't he? When, he was saying that in our episode with him, wasn't he?
It'd be great to hear the the proper history as well from Mike.
Yeah.
Of the place. So that's good.
Yeah, it's going to be a good episode. That I'm looking forward to that. So keep an eye out for that coming. So that's going to be June or July, but we've also got another episode which I can't say anything about at the moment, but we're really excited for that one. We're working on that right now. That's going to be a big episode for us. So still got some really exciting stuff. And we've also got a potential episode covering the Elmwood House.
Yes.
We're working on that as well, so keep an eye out for that. If you don't know what that is, go and have a look. We've been there, we've investigated the place, and we've got some pretty cool stuff, didn't we?
We got quite a lot of activity, I thought. Well, it was good. There's some bits of that place that felt quite off, weren't they?
Yeah, they were wrong.
And that's where we got some fairly convincing activity, really.
I think so. We'll cover it really quickly now, just some of the stuff we did capture. But if you don't know what the place is, go and have a look at it if you're into this kind of thing. Go and just have a look at the Elmwood House Experience. I believe they are on YouTube. They've got a Facebook presence as well. But it's an old house, and it's like a community centre type thing now, isn't it? But they do also have a part of it which they use for paranormal investigators to go around, and loads of investigators have been around it. You know, big YouTube type ones. Ouija Brothers have been around there a couple of times. They got some good activity, but yeah, we got some good stuff. Footsteps on stairs that was creepy.
We did.
Walked through this door and we had running going up the stairs, and no one was in there other than us. We
had some direct responses with. I've got to say the cat ball thing has never. I've not seen any activity in the ghost hunts we've done with cat balls that I can't easily explain away. Without getting into the explanations worse than the actual thought that it's paranormal. Some of it is pretty easy to explain away. Whereas whilst we were in Elmwood House, 2 cat balls were activated on demand, basically, weren't they?
They were. And bearing in mind, we'd used them in every room we'd been into, and they weren't going off all night.
Yeah.
I mean, to the point where I even had to go up to one of them and give it a good old kick because I was convinced they weren't working, wasn't I? I was just like, I don't think these work. And then I moved it. I was like, oh, okay, it does work. And then we went into another room, put them down, nothing going on. And we said, we put one in front of a door, didn't we? And it was like, oh, if you need permission to come in, you can come in. And then, bosh, the light went off, didn't it? Cat ball went off.
And it had been sat there for quite a while. So it wasn't a draft from under the door, moving the ball, or it went on, sloping
uneven
floor.
Surface. No.
And interestingly, the ball didn't really move.
No,
it just went off.
Because that's the thing. When I moved it, it lit up, but I couldn't get it to light up with just a little tap of it, could I?
Or standing near it, or
yeah, that's it. I was jumping up and down near it in some of those other rooms, wasn't I, to see if they were still working, because I was convinced they weren't, because nothing was happening, nothing at all. Like, I was walking near them and they weren't going off. I was like, I don't think these things are turned on. And then I kicked it and it was on, wasn't it?
And it was a room where they have experienced a negative entity before, so they think. And that's what we were sort of working on, and I don't know, I felt it was quite negative personally. I didn't feel like it was a good thing.
No, I think of all the rooms, like, I certainly didn't feel like I was alone in a lot of the rooms, but that was one where I was like, I don't really like it in here.
Yeah.
There's not a nice vibe in here, and then that was where we got that kind of activity where, and I think for me it became more compelling when we heard the spirit box say leave, or we thought we heard it say leave. We couldn't be sure, could we? And it was like, are you wanting us to leave? And we didn't hear anything. So I said, okay, well, look, if you want us to leave, we will respect your wishes. But if you want us to leave, you're going to have to make it clear. You've done it before. Light the cat ball up again to tell us that you want us to leave, and we'll go. And then bang, it lit up, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
Absolutely.
So we left.
Yeah, we left. Lee shat his pants and demanded I went and retrieved the cat ball, and I did, because I'm not a big girl's blouse. But yeah, so either way, I guess the point I'm trying to make is it was a fantastic place. It was an incredible place. Go watch videos on it. Again, the Ouija Brothers one is a really good one to watch. They don't get loads of activity, but some of the activity they do get is very, very compelling.
Did you mirror any of ours, by the way? I haven't watched these videos myself.
Have you not? Go watch that one. The Ouija Brothers are probably some of the better ones on YouTube to watch, where they don't really scream and run around like idiots. That's it. They're quite down to earth geezers. They just let it happen if it happens, and they try and figure it out. But they got like a woman's voice. They heard a woman's voice.
Oh wow!
And it even captured it on the camera. And one of the doors, they catch it on camera. They're there off at the other end of the corridor. You can hear them. They're not actually properly recording at that point. The camera's just still rolling. All of a sudden, the door just closes on its own.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's good. It's good. It's worth a watch. So yeah, that's Elmwood House, and we are in the process of trying to get back there. We have had permission that we can go back there and record and do a bit of an interview there. So yeah, keep an eye out. We're trying to get it sorted, and you know, it's hard. You know, we work full time. You know, Lee's something of a doctor. I think he pretends. I don't think I've ever really seen him do anything. So I think he lies about it. But I'm a pilot. I've got a really important job. So
there's only one unreliable narrator here.
So yeah, you know, we're busy people. I'm fly internationally. Yeah, I fly to Scotland. So
to be fair, I'm as much of a doctor as you are a pilot.
But yeah, I think that's about it. Is there anything else from you, Lee?
No, nothing from me.
Yeah, I thought so. Sounds about right. So thank you very much for listening, everybody. We really do appreciate it. So and again, thank you very much to our 2 stories tonight. The absolutely great stories. Really, really do appreciate you taking the time to send them in. And yeah, if you've got any, send them in. We'd love to hear from you. We really do appreciate you all listening. So thank you very much. But some experiences are loud, impossible to ignore, impossible to forget. But others are quiet, a brief moment, a single word, a feeling that something was there, and even if you couldn't see it, and maybe that's what makes them more unsettling. Because they don't demand belief. They don't try to convince you. They simply happen. A presence standing just behind you, close enough to feel. A name appearing where it shouldn't, at a time when it means the most. And then, nothing. No explanation. No repetition. No way to prove it ever happened at all, except for the memory. But once you've felt it, once you've seen it, once you've recognised it, you don't forget. And you start to wonder how many moments like that passes by every single day, unnoticed, unquestioned, or worse, seen, but never understood. So tonight, when something feels just slightly out of place, when the silence feels a little heavier than it should, ask yourself, was it nothing? Or was it something that only you were meant to notice from beyond the veil?